So thank you for coming to this session. We got about 6 people in here. We got 2 people online, so good mixture. And what we're going to do today, this is a project that I'm making my ETGG 3801 students do. So they're learning about game engines, and now they're going to kind of teach you a little bit of what they know. In that class, we focus on 2 game engines, Unity and Unreal. We already had the top one on Unity. Now we're going to do the top one on Unreal. Unreal, I don't know if it's deserved or not, but at least for me, it's a little harder coming at from a programmer's background. I think Unity is a little bit more programmer friendly. Unreal, on the other hand, is maybe a little bit more artist friendly. If you have a model that you want to see in action, very, very easy to, I think you can actually export from a lot of modeling softwares like Maya. You can just export straight to the Unreal Engine. So that aspect of it is easier. It's not impossible. You can code in blueprints, which I think is what these guys are going to show you. You can also code in C++, which in my opinion is the hardest programming language. So Unreal kind of, don't think of it as 2 strikes, but it has 2 like extra layers of difficulty that kind of make it intimidating for a newcomer. But the blueprints, I think, cut down on that quite a bit. It makes it a lot more easy to get into. It's an interesting way to code. So it'll be a good compare and contrast with those of you that came to the Unity talk. That said, Unreal is, I think, one of the more well-known game engines out there. I think one of the big reasons is that when you start a game that's made in Unreal, there's this big giant splash screen that comes up and lets you know that that was what it was made in. Unity doesn't always do that. Very beautiful results. I think of the 2 engines, this is probably the more graphically intense, nice results. And it's even more exciting with the advent of Unreal 5, which still kind of early in the rollout procedure, but once it's there, it could kind of change the way that game developers and especially game artists do all of their work. So anyway, that's my intro. I'm going to turn it over to these guys. They're going to introduce themselves, maybe say a few additional words about Unreal if I missed anything, and then we'll just jump into the project. So let me get this out of the way. Make the camera bigger here. Okay, there you go. If you guys want to come up here, introduce yourself.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Kyler. As Jason said, I'm a junior in 3801. I play esports free time. You really didn't know we were doing introductions, so I'm kind of caught off guard. Don't really know what to say. So yeah, and he kind of nailed Unreal. It's my preferred engine to Unity in all fairness. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm Riley. When it comes to Unity and Unreal, I kind of favor Unreal as well, just because it seems to be a bit more polished, even though Unity is a bit easier to work with, I feel like.
Yeah, that's good.
Hi, I'm Carter. I also kind of prefer Unreal over Unity. It's kind of why we chose to do the Unity or Unreal tutorial. For me, I enjoy it just because it feels really unique, and like with the blueprints and stuff, understanding how the blueprints and stuff work can be a little bit difficult sometimes, but once you understand how all of that works, it becomes extremely simple. So
yeah, that's great. And just one little final word I want to mention. The Gaming Arts program, which I know we have a couple artists here, this is what they use exclusively. So you'll definitely get a much more thorough introduction to it in the art program, and we dig into it in the junior class that these guys are in. All right, so I'm gonna let them, that's Carter's computer, right? Okay, let me make him presenter. Okay, you know how to do the share thing.
Absolutely. I've never done this.
Purple tab down the lower right, and then the little box down at the bottom, the arrow coming out of it. Yeah, share screen. Yep. click that. Yeah, that's fine.
Now you can switch
Okay, so there we go.
All right, I suppose I'll start off, get it rolling. You guys probably want to have these thumbnails up here. That's projects we worked on in class, others like side projects.
So
So,
everyone have it Unreal open first?
yeah, this might take a minute. Everyone might want
I think the two
Launch
people on
Unreal.
school computers do. By the way, anybody that's online, type stuff in the chat if you've got any questions. I'll probably jump up here and try to do the chat. Unless one of you guys wants to.
I can check it.
You guys in here, just like the other session, if you want to just raise your hand, one of us will come over and try to help you if you get stuck with anything.
So is everyone at this point, or are we still waiting for Unreal to load?
Unreal can take a minute or so.
More than a minute.
But yeah, Unreal might take the quarter of the time. That's,
I'm there.
That.
I'll record this too, Zach, so put it on YouTube. Put link up.
okay, I guess we will start then. So we're gonna come, obviously, we're gonna start with making a game. So grab this game category on the next. We're gonna start in a top-down blueprint, so it should be about midway through. And then once you've got that, next, make sure you have no starter content here. It won't necessarily hurt you to have it. We just don't need it. It's just gonna make the project bigger. So should be a blueprint, max quality, no ray tracing, desktop console, no starter content. Down here you can save this to wherever you prefer. Won't change that for now, but wherever you want to create projects. So then we will go ahead and get loaded up.
Okay.
I would just change it to the D drive.
I put it in school.
It bugs me.
Now your desktop's leaky. It's over for you.
It's fine.
I can't wait to tweet about this.
Yes, now everyone knows that I watch anime.
Oh no, it's over. Okay, so I will just pause here for a moment, make sure everybody can get in here. We're all good. Just go one moment.
Settings. I know you said no starter.
If it's you have no starter content, everything else should just be the defaults.
Yeah.
That's fine?
Yeah.
Just wanted to double check.
Really, I don't think it matters too much for the purposes of this. But... Okay, I suppose I will pick up, continue. So the first thing we're going to do, this is a blueprint from, or a template from Unreal. We're not going to do exactly what it's meant for. We're going to kind of twist and turn a little bit for what we want. So we don't need this character. So just take your little cursor, select him, and hit the delete button on your keyboard. We're just going to get him out. And then first thing we're going to do is come down here in your file browser at the bottom, right click, and make a blueprint class. And it's going to bring up this parent class, whatever you want the class to inherit from. It'll kind of give it a couple properties it has. For our purposes, we're going to use a pawn. That's kind of like the base player in Unreal. Then we're going to name it my player, if I can spell, BP. Double click that, open it up. Might take a minute. It opens in a different window. If you like that, feel free to keep it. I'm going to attach mine to the top. I think it'll be a little bit easier to follow. So then once you're in the editor for this, you're going to come over here to add component at the top left. and search for a cube. Add that in. It'll ask you to name it. You don't really need to, again, for the purpose of this, so you can just click out of that. Then you're going to drag it on top of default scene root.
You need to slow down, just.
Yeah, I can adjust, slow down, stop, rewind, do whatever.
The search bar just searches for the components you already have.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then drag the cube up the root.
So that it becomes
Carter, you're passing. You're passing. You're just going through.
Sorry, I'm too speedy. Okay, anyway, so you're gonna highlight this cube, pick it up, and drag it on top of the default scene root. What that's gonna do is it's basically gonna take the hierarchy of this player and base it off of the cube rather than the default root it started with. Then we're gonna go back to add component and grab a camera. You're gonna just search in camera. It's going to spawn it inside the cube for Unreal reasons.
Also, you should mention the panning controls.
Oh yeah, once I get the cube in, I was going to. So then it'll spawn you in with this camera. Just take this arrow and drag it up and out of the box. Push it a little bit back to wherever you like. It's not all too important. Then highlight the camera. Come over here to this select and rotate right about the middle of your editor. It'll bring up this. Then you should be able to grab this green and tilt the camera down to look at the cube. So then once you're there, we should be able to do File and Save. Pop back tabs. I'll give everyone a minute to make sure we're good. I don't want to go too fast.
Are you just watching? Okay.
I don't know what the right pace is.
Adjust.
Yeah,
Every time.
like actually, like just yell at me if I'm going too fast.
Sometimes it's like,
You good? Need a moment?
think so.
Right. So if we're good there, then we will pop back over to the top-down example, the upper left tab where it started us, and we will drag and drop our new player into the scene. It's going to spawn him in the ground. So to adjust this player, you have camera controls in this UI. If you have your mouse in it and right-click, you can turn your camera, do like a free look type thing. And while holding right-click, you can do sort of first-person shooter controls and WASD around in the direction you're looking. And then if you need to go up or down, Q and E do that respectively. So it might feel kind of awkward at first, but you'll get the hang of it. Just be moving around a little bit. So once you change your view on this, grab that blue arrow and just drag him up out of the floor a little bit, and you should be good. Again, I'll just take a moment, let everyone get there. It might be kind of awkward to move around.
I don't know, the Discord notification.
Okay, everyone comfortable in here following? We'll take that as a yeah. Okay, so now we are going to, we're good for the player for now. Now he's in our scene. So we are going to come down to this, back into the file browser at the bottom, right click again and make a new material this time. So this one, we are going to have a green matte. Once you've got that made, double click it, it'll open up another editor. And then from the top, you can pull out this base color node. You just have to click on the little dot next to it and pull it over to the side. Let go, and it'll bring up the search box. You're going to search constant, and it'll give you these options for a single constant and then vector constants. You're going to come and grab a constant 3 vector. it should open up this little black box. And once that's there, you can double click on it and it'll bring up the color wheel. Since this is our green material, just click on anywhere in that color picker, come down here, grab a green you like, play with any settings, whatever green makes you happy. Once you've found whatever green you prefer, come in here and grab OK. And Unreal might take a moment to load it, but this box will change to green and your mat will change to green. So then save that in the top left.
So we just made it green and then save? Or did
Yeah.
you use-
No, you just, once you have the green, just save it.
Okay. Going so fast.
Yeah, if at any point I'm going too fast, just tell me to slow down, stop, and I'll help you and get you wherever you need to be. So then once you're back here in our main scene, any of these cubes, you can just take that green mat and drag it on top of them. And it may take a second, it'll go untextured, and then Unreal will load it green. It just takes a moment because it's Unreal.
Do we want to do that with all of it?
Do it whichever ones make you happy. I'm gonna go through and I'm probably gonna make 2 more of these and kind of make the scene colorful. There it is. So then I'm going to run back through that process a couple more times. If you miss anything, it's gonna be the exact same with a red material and a blue material. So again, for blue mat, base color. What was the C word? Constant. Wow. I could see it. I just couldn't think of what it was.
At least you remember to start with a C.
Yeah, no, I kept thinking component. I'm like, I know that's not right. Yeah, so again, component 3 vector, same process. Just grab a nice blue. Okay. Red material. Red. Make sure both of those are saved. Great. Go ahead and add some photos to the boxes. And then I'm also going to take one of these materials and put it on top of the player and give him a little bit of color as well.
It doesn't do it for pawns for some reason. When you want to attach it to a pawn, you actually have to go into its blueprints. And there is,
There's a lot of extra stuff in the word that is just really shouldn't get on
Can we click
somewhere
on
where
the
it
mesh?
lets you edit the mesh. I forget exactly where that is.
Yeah, so, right there.
It really doesn't add anything except the
Yeah.
blue cube. No. So again, I will give a moment. Okay. So then once you're here, we're going to come back and make one last adjustment to the player. Over here in this transform, like it's details on the bottom right, we're going to scroll down and find this. What section is it? There it is. It's under pawn. It's the second one down under transform. So you're going to go down here in this menu to auto possess player. And once you find that, make it player 0. this should make it to, once we hit play here up top, it should possess the camera and we should be playing as that cube. Might want to adjust the angle of the camera. Yeah. But yeah, that wraps up my section of it. I will let Carter continue from there.
Okay, now that we have our player, we're going to get it moving, turning, and a little bit of physics and collision.
Well, so, because I did this and that, but I don't think we've done the movement yet, so
No. Okay,
let's see what Grace has to do.
so what I'm going to do first, because we're gonna have to make sure that the camera is moving, and I'm going to adjust it so that we can actually see what's going on. Maybe just a little. Right, I think that's pretty good. Okay. So, in order to add movement, we're going to have to go to the player. We have our viewport where we have all of the mesh for the pawn with its components and stuff. In order to add actual code to it, we have to come over here to the event graph. This is where you start getting into spaghetti. So in order to add movement, we're going to want to come down here to where it says event set. This says that every frame it does this bunch of code. This is basically an update function. We're going to pull off the blue triangle thing, and it should pull up this menu. And we're going to search for add actor local offset. There's also add actor world offset. We want to use local offset because that's going to move the player relative to itself rather than relative to the world. This takes in the target, which faces itself, a location that you're moving it, just a vector that you're moving it in that direction, and two booleans which we can just leave blank. But we don't want to take in a vector right now. So we're going to right click on that vector pin and split the struct pin. This makes it so you have your X movement, your Y movement, and your Z movement separate. Right now, since we just wanted to move it forward, we don't care about the Y or Z movement. We just care about the X. Okay. So we can take this, and we're going to want to, first off, we're going to want to add a variable. If you come over here to this, where it says variables, hit the plus button, and it will add a variable. We're going to call this speed. Once you have that variable, you can come over here to the top right, and where it says variable type, you can change that to a float. Hit compile, and then that allows us to set a default value for the speed.
Wait, where is this showing us? Oh. And then I forget what we're doing.
And then compile up here.
What?
Compile,
Oh, what?
and that will allow you to change the default value.
Oh,
For 1,000, I've noticed is a pretty good value for this.
Just a little plug for my 1801 students, this is kind of where he's headed with this, is the rate times time stuff. That's
Yeah.
what the 1801.
We're going to pull off delta seconds to get this menu, and then we're going to hit the asterisk so that we can grab float times float. We're going to, from our variables, grab speed and pull it into the scene, get speed, and then connect that into the other node.
get speed? Set speed?
Get.
Yeah.
Get gets the speed that we already have set as if you want to change the speed. What this is doing is it's taking delta seconds, multiplying it by our speed, and then outputting it. We're going to take that output and put it into
Is this? I can't tell if I'm doing this right at all.
Yeah.
I'll get you. So it's like,
You can hit the top here.
he's trying to move the cube, he's taking the delta time, times it by the rate which we're moving, and then that becomes the amount that we move in the X direction.
Yeah.
Because X is going to be forward,
Mhm.
Y is going to be,
He's
I
right.
believe, to the right, and then Z is the vertical
He
axis.
goes right click.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know.
Well, I knew from trying to figure out the controls.
Right.
You get this?
Yeah.
Left.
Okay. So once you have that, you should be able to hit play, and it moves the cube forward. Now we want to turn the object. So we're going to add another variable. We'll call this one fork. And since the last variable that we made was float, this one should be default float. If not, you just come up here to variable type and change it to float. We're going to off the back.
What are we doing here?
I added another variable and called it torque. This is just going to speed, you can speed at which it's going to rotate.
Called it what?
Torque. You could call it anything. This is just the speed at which the object is going to rotate.
This what was
Torque.
torque.
It's like a twisting force.
Not an easy word to say when your mouth is muzzled. Okay. So off the back of the add actor local offset, we're going to pull off the little white line, which is power. And then we're going to add actor local rotation. This is going to be how you rotate the object. And we're going to come down here to the delta rotation, and we're going to split that pin again. We want to pull out the torque and get that. We want to pull off delta seconds again and multiply them.
This
You can pull another one off of the.
oh
And then we're going to pull off the product that we get and plug it into the delta rotation Z. This is going to turn it around the Z axis, which is the vertical axis. The X axis is the forward backward axis, and the Y axis is the side axis.
So we need another one of these. So,
I know what this is.
So once we have that, we can hit play, and it will not rotate.
What?
so drag it off of the seconds,
Oh, we forgot to set the default value,
and then do another time or hash.
which 100 should be about good for this one.
And do-
And now it rotates. And I'll give everyone a second to get caught up.
And then leave this.
And the video was very choppy.
Yeah, it doesn't look like that on the computer.
Actually, easy. Oh, sorry.
Z?
I was gonna say.
Yeah, no.
Hold down.
Blackboard is very
Yeah.
laggy sometimes.
Hold all the time.
Move our bosses with Twitch.
Hit play.
Freshman year, when we moved online, someone did that. And I didn't have good enough internet to watch on Twitch.
I just want to drop Jason some bits in his lecture. You know?
But then how is Z doing that?
Oh, which torque? Which axis?
Z.
Z.
Because we want to rotate it around the vertical axis, and Z is the vertical axis.
No, I'm trying to go back to the.
Because it's not as down.
I'm trying to do
You should be able to hit F and zoom in on whatever you have. What do you have selected?
I don't know. What did I do?
See if I can figure it out.
Scroll down to find fire. Or just click on one of the cubes. You can go so far that you got the skybox.
And then I wasn't getting the rotation. What did I do?
Did you set your default value for torque?
No.
Set it to 100. Almost like I planned for this. Have you got rotating now?
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we've got the cube moving and rotating, we want to add player controls to have the player control how it moves. So we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and it's going to pull up this tab. On the left side, we want to find Input.
Wait, how did we get here?
Edit, top right edit, or top left,
Edit.
Project Settings. And then you're gonna, on the left side, under Indent, there's an input. Okay. Up here at bindings, this is our key bindings. There's action mappings for the base keys, and then axis mappings for mappings of the axis. Under action mappings, we're going to hit the plus sign, and that creates a new button. We are going to name that to fire and save that for later. Just below where it has the action, we can set the key for it. Right now it's set to none. If we click on that, we can either search through these menus or search for the key that we want. We're going to bind space. Spacebar. For our movement, we're going to come down here to the axis mapping. At an axis, we're going to call this the forward back axis. Back axis. And we want 2 buttons within this axis. Easier way to set controls is there's this button beside the key. You hit that button and then hit the key you want to use. It maps it to that key. So we're going to set W and S for the forward back. And then we're going to create another axis. Another axis called turn. And it is going to be A and B. And then over here, where it says scale,
Or that D mapping's on a different axis. On the same one.
thank you. B, like that. Thank you for catching on. Over here for scale, we're going to want to set the S button to -1, so it's in the opposite direction of W. And then we're going to set the A scale to -1, so it's in the opposite direction of B. Now that we have our keys, we actually have to make them do something. We're going to come back over here to the map. We're going to go into blueprints and open up the top-down controller.
Down.
Go over to the event graph, and there's going to be a bunch of code in here that we don't need. So we're just going to select it all and delete it.
Like everything?
Yes. Okay, so now that we're here, we're going to right-click, and we need to find the input. So we're going to search for
Oh.
Forward.
I just-
and under Axis Events, we're going to select Forward Back.
Mm,
Right-click,
wait,
type in Forward.
do- Oh, yeah, but also what about this? That's.
That's fine. Mistake.
Okay.
And what is it?
You're going to right-click, and then you're going to search for whatever you call the axis.
What?
Forward.
Right-click,
But don't you have a thing there already? You have another thing. That's
What I did was I right click, type forward, the name that I named it, and then under active
Oh.
events,
Oh.
forward back. Okay. This now, whenever you press a key mapped to that axis, it will give a 1 or a -1, as we said in the mapping. So now we want to get controlled pawn. Get controlled pawn. This gets the pawn that the top-down controller is controlling. We're going to, off of that, pull a pin and cast it to our my player BP class. And then we're going to pull power off of the input axis and attach it to that casting. This makes it so that we're basically using that class now rather than just the top-down controller. From that, we're going to, where it says as player DP, we're going to pull a pin off of that. I forgot to set up. Okay, so back in the player, my player DP, we're going to need one more variable. We're going to call this the move axis.
one more variable.
Yes. And then we don't want to right float. We want a 2D vector for the forward and the sideways. But that's not one of our defaults. So we're going to have to search for vector 2D. Now that we have our variable, we can come back into the top-down controller, and from as my player BP, we can get that variable. Get the move axis. We are also going to want to pull a pin off and set the move axis. Attach power. And then split both of those. Well, catch up. My bag over there.
Split those.
Okay. Now, since we're only caring about moving forward and backwards right now, we want to keep whatever the y-axis mapping is and overwrite the x with the axis value that we have.
What?
So pull where off of where we got the move axis, pull the y pen and put it into the set y. And then pull from the axis value of the input and move that to set x.
Cool.
This will set the x-axis value to either 1 or -1, whichever, for whatever button you're pushing.
Oh.
And then whatever the y-axis already is, it's going to leave that. And then we're going to want to do for the y value, we're going to want to do the exact same thing. But with the input, we're going to want to use the turn axis that we created. So grab the axis.
What did you say?
You should just be able to type turn and find it under axis.
Or whatever else you name
Okay,
your.
yes, but what did you actually?
Should be at the top.
Turn, where it says input under axis method, axis events should just be turn.
Yeah, I think turn rate was confusing.
Yeah. I chose a bad name for it. I didn't realize that that was a thing when I decided on this. Okay, now we're going to want to get the control. Get control.
On?
Get control con. Just try and find it. And we're going to want to cast that to my player BP. Add the power. We're going to want to get the move axis. And then we're going to split that pen. We're going to
So,
set the move axis. Split that pen.
Of the second move.
And then for this one, since we don't care about the x-axis, the x is just going to stay the same. So take it from the get to the set,
Right, there it is.
and then it is the y value that we want to change.
yeah.
So pull from the input to the y.
Split it. Split it. Why does it not show up that way?
Carter, what are you setting?
Setting the move axis.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
You can just do, well, you gotta pull.
Yeah. Yeah. Pull off of
It's the bottom. The
Let's
You got a
go.
problem with the game moves falling to play?
that, which you use the variables and stuff from the player that we cast to. So this lets you access the move axis that we set in the player class.
It worked on this one, but when we did it like on our end, right, we have that one.
This is not processing my brain at all, but
It's okay.
Blueprints are like that until you start figuring out how they work. It just takes some practice to understand how it works.
no.
That only happens when this spell is cast with player, which is never going to do.
What did you attach to? You attached this.
Yes.
Attach-
The X to the X. And then this, the Y.
What? Oh, this.
Yes. It's just the same thing that we did up here, but flipping the X and Y axis.
Okay.
It's only like the people that are possessive.
Go back to your, never mind that. Go back, click on your cube. Go up to where it says. When you, hold over that. Okay, you spawned this as an actor, not a pawn. Yeah.
Wait, I don't know if you change it on the bottom ago.
It breaks any pins that don't.
And now under there, there should be pawn. I'll put this player right here. No, it's not. Where did you, that is the wrong, function. Which one? The set base rotation and offset, that is wrong. So you're going to want to add after local rotation. It's the same function that we use for the offset
with rotation other than drag key down. And then okay. I think we got everyone where we need to be.
Hey, Jason, you have a question?
Sure.
So now that we have the why are you giving me edits or errors? This is would be exactly what we did last time. Move access could not be found. What do you mean move access could not be found? File.
Whenever you get to
There
a
we
good
go,
place, Heather, whenever you get to a good place, we might want to pause for like 5 or 6 minutes, just let people stretch their legs a little bit.
Oh, yeah, let me actually add the movement into the character. Okay, so now that we have the program recognizing player input, we're actually going to attach that to our object. We're going to come back in here to the my player BP, and we're going to drag off the move axis and get the move axis. So we want to split that. Now, if you're pressing W or S, the move axis X is going to be either 1 or -1. So we can just multiply that into our function that we're already made. So now, if you're not pressing any buttons, the output is going to be 0. Pressing W is going to be some positive value. And if you're pressing S, it's going to be some negative value. In order to add in that multiplication, you can just at the bottom where it says add 10, click that. For the torque, we're going to just do the exact same thing with the Y. Plug that in. We can hit play. And now it doesn't move on its own. We press W. We have to click into the screen. It doesn't move on its own. Press W, it moves forward. S, it moves back. A turns left. B turns right. And then we can take our break.
So how about we say like 5 after 1? We'll keep going. Just curious, what do you 1801 students think of this way of coding compared to like Unity's very tight lines of code or Python? Just that.
I would see here, even though I have a little bit more of an art background, even then I think I would prefer doing the Unity way.
That's
Because
fair.
right now in my brain, this feels like just a mess.
Mhm. And it is easy to get disorganized. Yeah, sure.
Which is weird. I feel like I have done something similar in the past with a previous class. But still.
It's different.
There, you can search wherever you label your actions, and like that's like you go into a file or edit. I'm sorry. Up there in the project button. Then input, you go down the menu will happen.
I think I'd rather do.
For stuff like this, it's much shorter, but one nice thing is you can see, I don't know if you noticed that when he was running it, you can show like the power as it activates it and helps you debug.
Yeah.
Is there a convenient Zoom for Unreal?
Not for this, I don't think there is one. Yeah.
What does he want to zoom?
No, I was gonna make a bigger reader.
just trying to read that.
As Jason, he said there was no zooming.
You only need forward, back, and turn.
You're trying to do bottom forward.
These three and these two are just the ones that come with the template we used. So you can keep them there, leave them, or turn them off. The move forward and move right were actually just what we made.
Action, the only thing shown under action on is fire. So. No, those two,
Yeah.
down.
Do you understand what's going on?
Those come with the base game.
This is kind of why I said we're about to get into spaghetti.
Really?
I mean, I probably could have done that in a way that makes it look a bit cleaner, but
Yeah.
do you know what happened?
No.
Okay. Would you like for me to
Yeah,
explain?
Yeah.
Okay.
So then.
Basically, what's happening here is we're taking in delta. That's just
Mhm.
how much time has passed since the last frame.
Okay.
We're multiplying that by the speed variable that we set, and then the move axis x.
Yeah.
Move axis x is 1 if you're pressing W,
Mhm.
0 if you're not pressing anything, and -1 if you're pressing S.
Mhm.
So if you're moving forward,
So now
it's going to be a
that's,
positive number.
when
Moving
you go
backwards,
back
it's going to
to
be a negative number.
graph?
If you're not pressing any button, it's going to be 0. And you're feeding that into this. This tells it how far in the X direction are we moving, how far in the Y direction are we moving, how far in the Z direction are we moving.
So, right click and search forward.
Oh, so now.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we're doing the exact same thing with the Y. How much time has passed since the last frame, the torque that we set, are we pressing a button,
You got it?
and then how much are we turning in the Z direction? Since Z is the vertical axis, it rotates around the vertical axis. X is the forward axis, so if we rotate it around that, it would rotate like this. And then Y would rotate like this.
So then drag out those and you're gonna cast through.
My favorite. Then you right click and grab gate control font. Flex board file 8.5.
No, I've done some things that weren't good. There's things that I could have done better.
I think it's just too complex.
Yeah.
The explanation made it go higher. That helps.
It's just a lot of information to try and get in 2 hours, so. I don't know.
What variable is that
I get
setting?
why it has to be rushed.
This is setting the move axis.
It-
We're taking a value from move axis and keeping it in that, and then overriding the other value in move axis, because there's 2 values in move axis.
Yeah, so in your player, you have to define the
Right, am I right about that?
Yes.
Make sure you compile it before you compile the other one, or it will. Is it
It's gonna be like.
It's not one of the defaults you have to.
Right,
set for.
so-
I think we're on course for finishing at 2.
I don't feel like there's any certain place you have to be at when you get done, just whatever's comfortable.
Well, I
Oh, hold on.
want to get through everyone's thing. I don't want to half finish it, but I also don't want to leave an hour left.
Right.
Or how are you referencing that in that script? I'm just wondering.
What do you mean, how am I referencing?
How are you getting that set? How are you getting that vector shooting? I'm actually just
Okay.
thinking on it.
So what this function is doing is it's taking the control pawn and using it as if it was a player class. So you pull a pin off of this, you can grab the variables of the player class. So that's how you add access to. Just grab your tab into the same window. You want to have a tab. Search for Git in the back.
So for this project,
Mhm.
I've been through
Mhm.
that super polished game.
Mhm.
What kind of direction should we go in? Because we talked about a few things, but I didn't know like, what you would like to see.
No, that's, my metric is like how much effort you put in, so you want to just keep going down the path that they said, if you want, you are now part of the team, like you can steer it in a little different direction. If you
We
don't.
kind of put everything, but we thought about things like how it's.
Yeah, that would be easy.
Just like that game is.
And I mean, the first sprint, there's usually a lot of stuff you see. The second sprint, just you're fitting new stuff into existing stuff, so we might not like see as many visual changes.
I just know the second split too underwhelming and then.
How's that? Zero.
Unreal. Yeah, actually.
Which one? Oh, you created your own player controller. Okay, yeah, go back to the game mode. Where's the top-down controller? It was using the old player controller that came with the thing. Now it should recognize.
Kind of running some from the project that we've already been pulled up.
On the.
Get rid of it.
Just not confessing it.
Okay, production project. The game player system. Give me project. Edit. You didn't take a new game mode, did you? Okay.
But on the update, that have the his controller.
You on all of the player zero.
That is you have a separate controller class that you made.
Well, that's just for AI.
Well, I think we could set it to new controller.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Sure.
pull it off and then pull off. So you can't just right click and.
It's getting those.
I can see if this is for power planning. It's getting, okay, so it's a problem with the variable.
Totally variable. It's just what it is, we did it.
Yeah, and then oh, so that'd be here. Right click on. Time.
Sure.
Have it off the main zone. Modify that. No, it doesn't. It did not find the one variable.
It could be the second variable.
Get that. That just makes it so that other functions. I will work with the fees, I'm not quite sure.
I think that cat was, their teeth, I have blueprint about them.
No, I think this is the right one, because it's used to be.
You pull that, play it, corn off with them, and then take them across to keep that display available in the output pin.
Just block.
Put them in a circle and then put that in, and like that. You type for cascading. Yeah.
Maybe if I cast the default one.
Yeah, 'cause that would have been variable, you need to specific on color.
Have you saved since you put the variable in the? Yeah.
Fire, that saving doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm just throwing out a.
As long as it compiles.
Dude, I'm shooting in the dark, I don't know.
You're not getting any compiler errors either. Well, it's not like something's broken there.
So. Go on, make this. Call it imager. Something to.
Did something right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's like almost 120 now.
Just compile.
Okay.
Didn't like your.
That's pretty accurate intro on that.
Yeah.
What's funny is I have the underscore and it works.
Well, it does this one for the computer.
Yeah.
It's because I installed Unity first, it's salty, I think.
God.
Alright, what have you next? Yeah. That's cool.
Well, you're gonna get the move access. Split the 10. Split the 10. Right click. Okay, and then you're gonna pull off of there, you're gonna set the move access. Okay, split the 10. Grab that. copy. And you're just gonna do the exact same thing, the X to X, and then over to Y. The add blueprint into the Git instead. So the okay. I go to the flavor one. Add it into the lid. Get your root access. You can just grab that. Split it. Y goes to your torque, and X goes to your speed. Okay, play. And then you can just adjust the value to get those. Okay, I think we're good to start back up again.
Wow, okay.
That was a bizarre error or issue. Okay, now we've got the player moving, we got player control over it, but we still have the cube floating in the air and it just clips through boxes. So we're gonna fix it. We go into the player and we click on the cube. Over here, there should be an option where it has physics.
This one.
Physics. Click that checkbox. And then it should say enable gravity, make sure that is checked. And then down here where it says collision, there is this little show advanced button. Click that. Oh, not this arrow. It's the under collision presets, click that arrow. It says collision presets. We're going to set that to custom. We're going to have it block everything except for world dynamic. That is going to be ignored. And then we're going to come back out here to the scene. Over here, we're going to click on our first cube, scroll all the way down to wall 5, and then shift click to select all of them. And then under collision, we want to click where it says default, custom. We're going to enable. We're going to have it have set the world static, so to block everything, and then it's going to overlap with world dynamic.
Overlap.
And then at the top where it says, or third from the top where it says generate event overlap, we're going to click that. That we don't need to deal with right now, but it will be helpful later for Riley's thing. Making sure I have settings.
What was
Okay.
it for the player? Or what was the object type for the collision?
For on the player,
Yeah.
I forgot to set that. That is actually going to be not letting me change. Oh, pawn. Set that to pawn.
Okay.
Okay. Compile. Now, if we hit play, you should notice that the cube now falls to the ground, and you can't pass through walls.
Oh, yeah, I did that.
And that should be, that is my section. I will pass it off to Riley. Yes, I know what it is. That should be all that you, yeah, with enable gravity. Just click apply, see if that works. Yeah, thank you. You're under the mount. And then drag it out. Now apply. I think it's spawning in the ground. Yeah. It's. What happened is I think friction is taking over for that part. But is it should it matter what happens to the water?
An interesting thing I accidentally done. It's just I somehow flipped
What's
the
the
view
speed?
from the camera. So
Yeah, here's camera flash.
yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I
We
just
might-
figured something to point out.
We might want to lock the rotation of the cube. Like lock its orientation in the player.
Did you do?
Because you can run up against the post right now and tilt the cube back and it'll like throw the camera under the map. So if you lock it, it's
Yeah.
harder.
Do you want to do that?
And locking its X and Y should only take like 3 seconds. I say should because it's unreal, but
Target to itself, what this means is the word offset.
it's I think it's all the way at the top in transform. It's a constraints is what we're looking for.
Does it rotate this time?
Oh yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
Which ones do we want?
Lock rotation, it should be everything, but it should be X and Y. Because I think Z is the vertical one. We want it to be able to rotate this way.
Yeah. So are other people having issues where it's rotating and stuff?
We could run it into a cube and tilt it back and through the camera under the map. And
Oh.
Yeah. I added the
Oh,
one.
there's my
drag your cube
Yeah.
into your cube. Is that your cube object? Yeah. Your name. Drag that to where it says close. Wait, why do you have to close?
restock.
I don't think you can because it's the drag right above. Right above. Yeah. Okay. Now got it.
Default spawn, I think that like half ball rooms and other things that go to the regular home.
Default one are probably made for AI, where pawn is made for players.
Yeah, okay, right.
100. When I have. Okay. I think we're ready.
Okay. So I'm going to be doing the bullets for the player. Go to the level editor here. And we're going to add right here. a blueprint class. And we want to make it an actor. We're going to call it my bullet.
He's not drinking it.
Go ahead and double click it, open it. And then at the top of the left, we're going to add component. We're going to add a sphere. Sphere static mesh.
This sphere.
Yes. And then drag that sphere to the roof. And then over in event graph, actually we need to make some variables, so let's go ahead and add a variable. Call it bullet speed. And make it a float. And go ahead and compile it so we can set our default variable. Let's just set like 300. Now we're actually going to make it move. So in under event graph, we have event tick, that's one we want. Then drag off of here the power. We want add actor, local offset. And then go ahead and drag off of delta seconds. We want to multiply float by float. And then over here, we want to drag in our bullet speed. We want to get bullet speed. Go ahead and drag that into here. And then over here, at delta location, we're going to right click and split this. And then I believe the one we want is X. Pardon, sorry. You want X here?
Yes.
Okay. And then go ahead and compile. And go back to your level editor and drag the bullet into the scene. We're just going to see if it moves here. So go ahead and click play. And it does. So are we good till that point? Okay, you can go ahead and delete the bullet from the scene. Just click on it and press delete. Now we want to go to our controller, top-down controller. And anywhere in here, we're going to fall under event graph. We're going to search for our fire input. So input fire. Nope. Just try fire, and it should be action event. And then drag off press. Now, just like we did above, we're going to need to cast it to our player class. So just type my, and we want my player BP. And then from the object, I'm going to drag off of it, and we want to get control. Get control on. Now, here we run into an issue. We don't have anything in our player to say we want the fire. We could do something like a boolean or something, but it's probably easier just to add a function. So undo my player, go back into here. On the left side, there's above the variables, there's a function. Click plus to add a function. We want to call it fire. And then we want to drag off the fire. Now here's where we actually spawn the bullet. So we're going to type spawn. And you'll see spawn actor from class. And under here, you'll see the class. You want to select, go and click it and type my. And you'll see my bullet. And then we actually need to tell it to transform. So drag off the transform. And we're going to want get after transform. And then go ahead and compile. Now we need to switch back to our controller. And under event graph again, we can finish our fire. So drag off of add my player BP, the blue one. And we're going to just type fire. Now you can see we have access to the my player's fire function. And then go ahead and compile and run and see if we can fire a bolt.
I forgot we said space.
Yeah. I should have mentioned that. Okay, so
Right, even if you rotated your character.
let's see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so now we want to make the bullet disappear. So go back to my bullet. And in the top left, we want to put this here. And we'll scroll down to collision. I believe you want custom, and then which one do we want? Just collision with the world object with the bullet.
We want overlap on the world static,
Okay.
because that's the environment, and then we want ignore on the pond, because that's the player. Because we don't want it to interact with herself.
So we got overlap on, hold static, ignore on, everything else that's below. And then scroll all the way down here, and you'll see these events. The one we want is one component begin overlap. So just put that plus. And from here, um, actually, you want to go back to level editor here. I don't know if you set these for tags. So like we did earlier, we're going to select all these, the cube, starting from the cube, all the way down to the this hold shift. After you select first one, then select last. And then down in here, we're going to want tags. And then we're going to add a tag. Just put the plus, and we're going to name it world. Go ahead and save that, and then go back to our bullet. Now one other component, we're going to search for tags. Tag. And under the tag, we want to name it our world. Now this returns a boolean, so we're going to need a branch. So drag off the return value and type branch. This is true or false. Go ahead and connect the power. And then if it overlaps this component and it has the tag world true, we're going to destroy after. Go ahead and compile and save. And let's see if it destroys it. And remind is working sometimes.
So, with that space, I think it's just instantly deleting them.
Yeah, you're probably colliding with three.
Well, no, not the player, because we said it's not connected,
I think I know why.
but probably the floor, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, you might need to click your. Rather, I'm sorry, I was off that movie. Did you get us one with the fire port or no?
No. So fix that. Let's just go back to your player BP. And on the spawn, we're going to need to scale it. So go ahead and delete this. Drag off your spawn transform. We're under player. So drag off spawn and type make transform. Then off a location on the make transform, once we get after, actually get world, location cube, and then it made a reference to the cube, so just drag off of that. Let's get world again. This time we want rotation. Go ahead and drag that to our rotation. And then we want to scale it down. So let's say 0.3 maybe.
Do it.
That's what I figured, I just wanted to.
Go ahead and compile it and play. And now it doesn't hit the floor, so. And as you can see, it completely ignores the player. That's just temporary, you can set it up different. Okay, so also do UI, you have time? Okay. So now we're going to do a simple UI. So go back to level editor. Or should I ask is everyone?
What's that?
Is everyone caught up?
Yeah, you need another minute or two to catch up.
I'm caught up.
Yeah,
Connor, do you,
hard to catch
do
him
you
up. So. I think you got to download this thing.
I got you.
All right, so in our level editor, go ahead and click add again. And down at the very bottom, you say user interface. We want widget blueprint. Go ahead and name it my UI, I guess. And we'll click open it up. Now I'm just going to create a simple two text object. So over here you have text. Go ahead and click and drag it in the space up here. And then over here, you can change what the text says. So let's name it bold. Hits. And then go ahead and click on it down here, right here, and right click on it and hit duplicate. And then it creates a new one, and we'll just drag it right next to it. We can name it something different. It doesn't matter, because we're going to be updating. And when it's selected, go up here in the top right, you'll see this little box is variable. I want to check that. And then, just to make it easy, we're just going to rename the bottom one to hit value.
I don't know what that means.
And then compile, save. Now we're going to go back to our controller. And in the event graph, we have our inputs. We don't want these though. You might not have it, but we're looking for event play. Actually, event begin. There it is. Event begin play. And then we're going to drag for this. And we're going to search for create widget. And then under class, we're going to actually select our UI, which is my UI. And then from here, we need to actually put it to the screen. So we're going to type a view. So cast to viewport. Actually, that's incorrect. We need add to viewport. That's one we want. And then from here, go ahead and drag your return to target. And then what we want is to get our hit value from our UI class. So we have this here, and then this is new. We want to drag off of here. We're going to type promote the variable. Go ahead and connect the power. Now you see down here we have a new variable called hit value. And if we compile and save, we get just our static UI.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna have some weird issues come back.
Physically, I wonder if it's supposed to change.
Not right now. We're going to fix that. Okay, so go to my player VP. And we're going to create a new variable called score. And we're going to want this to be a integer. And then after we have that, we're going to want to update the score. So in my bullet, we're going to want to go ahead and hold Alt and click on as true. We don't want to destroy the actor right now. Pull up the true, we want to cast. So you can just type my cast to my player VP. And then from here, normally we would do hit control, but from here we cannot do that. So just save this, and then we'll want to go to my player VP. And under our fire function up here, and under our spawn my bullet, click this little drop box. And you'll see this owner. Drag from the owner, and you're gonna type self. What this does is just sets the owner to the board to my player BP. Go ahead and compile and save that, and then go back to my bullet. And then from here, we want to drag off of as my player. We want to get score. And then from our score, we're going to want to add to it. So drag off, type of plus, and the one we want here is int plus int. And by default, it's already set to 1.
Plus int,
Just type plus,
plus,
the symbol,
oh,
and int by int times it, or int plus int.
int, okay.
And then, since we added 1 to it, it doesn't actually do anything. We actually need to set it again. So then drag off here and hit set score. So you just type score. My bad, we want to drag another 10 off of here as my player BP. And then type score and then just see set score. And then we drag our result into the score. And then connect up the power. Then after we do this, or destroy after, we can go ahead and destroy it. And then compile and save that. Okay, so the owner. Oh, right, I forgot that. Thanks, Jason. From our cast my player, we need to get the owner. And then compile. Save that. Now we're still not doing nothing to the UI, so go back into our controller. And then in your event graph, you might not have it, but we need event tick. So just right click, event tick. And then from here, we're going to need another cast. Actually, just type in mine. And we want player. As my player, I'm going to drag off the blue and we want to get score. Now here we need a UI or a text object. The easiest way to get that is go over to your variables, get value, drag it in. And we want to get that value. And then from here, off the hit value, I'm going to type set text. Now it should have in parentheses text. So I'm going to fix that one. And then we drag our score to the text. and it will automatically convert our integer to a string. And then we need power, of course. Go ahead and compile. Oh, we need our reference. So in our cast, we can do get control on. File and save, and let's see if it updates. And that's a simple UI.
Okay. We'll stick around for a little bit afterwards if you guys need any help finishing up, but that's kind of where we'll end for today. Could I get a quick round of applause for the presenters, the juniors? And then, like I said, in the last presentation, a lot of thanks to you guys for coming, because that shows a lot of character, shows a lot of dedication to come in on a Friday when you didn't have to, not for a class. So thumbs up, good job. All right, for those of you or people not presenters, make sure you fill out one of those sheets of paper just so I get it to your professors, try to get you bonus points for if we can. And that's it. So thank you, everybody. And I will post this on YouTube sometime, hopefully this afternoon. All right. Thank you, guest, for joining us.